The Ontario government would never dream of removing wind turbines. They haven't for health reasons, despite complaints from residents living downwind. And as it turns out, they won't even remove them for safety reasons either. When will they learn? Sun News reporter Rebecca Thompson is here with the latest. Now, Rebecca, the Green Energy Act in Ontario has been an unmitigated disaster. Billions of dollars has gone into inefficient, unreliable, unwanted energy, given that we have an energy surplus. But now there's a public safety reason against some of these windmills as well. What do you have for us?
Well, it's the Chatham-Kent Municipal Airport, and 8 wind turbines were placed at the periphery of the airport, even though it was against airport regulations to do so based on safety concerns. Transport Canada, in fact, had to take an unprecedented move and step in and demand that these 8 wind turbines be removed over public safety concerns. And herein lies the issue, is that when the Green Energy Act was introduced in 2009, clearly there were not there wasn't any part of this framework that allowed for wind turbines not to be placed in places that were of clear public safety concern. And now what we're hearing from Kathleen Wynne is she is sidestepping the issue altogether, and in fact we have a clip of this, and instead putting the onus on Transport Canada to deal with this public safety concern.
Now, let's get
that conversation is on. That is happening. Transport Canada, you're talking about the wind turbine issue and the safety issue, yeah. So the Transport Canada, as I understand it, is talking to the company actually, and you know that issue has to be resolved so that that safety is the primary concern.
Okay, Rebecca, just so that everybody understands this issue, there is a certain radius in which these windmills, and windmills is the wrong word for them, they look like giant Martian tripods from War of the Worlds. There's a certain radius that they cannot be in terms of an airport. And the company knew this, and the government knew this, and these concerns were raised before the foundation was even poured for these wind turbines, and yet they still went within the radius of this airport. How in the world did that happen in the first place?
Well, it's clear that the municipality allowed for this wind turbine company to set up the wind turbines, even though Transport Canada, as you mentioned, stepped in even before they were built to caution them that they were installing wind turbines within a 4-kilometer radius of the airport, which is in fact against federal regulations. The wind turbine company now, JDF Suez, which is a multinational billion-dollar company, in fact, has to remove them and hasn't yet. This is another concern, David, is that on June 14th, Transport Canada issued the order for the company to remove the wind turbines, and yet they're still there, and yet they're still operational. Now, I had a chance to go up in the plane and fly off the runway and actually see with a pilot just how close we are to the wind turbines as we fly from the airport. In fact, we have a clip also of this pilot indicating just why pilots are so concerned with these wind turbines at this airport as well as other airports across Ontario.
When the weather conditions are good, it's not a major issue. Where the concern comes in is when the weather starts to deteriorate, ceilings start to come down, visibility is reduced, and especially for transient pilots that may not be as familiar with the area, you could end up right on top of them without with very little warning. As long as they keep putting them up as close to airports and runways as they are, it is almost inevitable that there is going to be an accident.
Rebecca, I can't believe what I'm hearing. Just to go back to your earlier comments, Transport Canada informed this company it's against our regulations for you to put these wind turbines in that radius. They still went ahead and did it anyways. Then they've been told you've got to shut them down and dismantle them. They're still up there. Transport Canada are the cops in this situation. They're defying the rules. What is the undercurrent here? I mean, this sounds like such incredible arrogance in light of a public safety issue.
Well, absolutely. And, you know, if you read between the lines here, what we're seeing from the Ontario government is that they continue to hang their hats on their green energy policies. We've heard it in the past couple of weeks. The Premier, the Energy Minister, Bob Chiarelli, all indicating that they are moving full force with their green energy plan, even though it only takes up 3% of energy on the grid. This is, of course, the issue many people have, is that there's huge subsidies into green energy, and yet there's not a lot of return for it. The Ontario government continues to hang their hat on it. They continue to push forward with pride that they introduced the Green Energy Act and that it's creating jobs and it's good for Ontario's economy and Ontario's energy supply mix. And this is why perhaps they don't want to step in and admit failure with the case of these wind turbines around airports. Now, this isn't the only airport in Ontario where this is a problem. There's also small airports in Collingwood, in Godrich, where wind turbines are set up just along the periphery. So if you can imagine it, the Ontario government stepping in the name of public safety and ordering wind turbines to be removed would spell as a disaster from a public relations point of view.
But they didn't have to go there in the first place. When you look at the landscape these wind turbines are located, it's not like there's a shortage of land. The very idea they would put them so close to airports in the first place, I'm just wondering, Rebecca, what has to happen for this company and for this province and this Premier to get on the ball here and dismantle these turbines near the airports? Is it going to be a tragedy? Is it going to be some kind of a calamity where a small plane goes into one of these turbines because of wind conditions or a pilot unfamiliar with the terrain?
Yeah, well, we sure hope not. And of course, the pilots in Ontario are a small group of people. These are recreational pilots and commercial plane pilots. They have been voicing their concerns for a long time, for several years, if not more, and yet their concerns fall on silent ears. We hope it doesn't get to this point. It's why I went out there to this airport and actually saw it firsthand, because I'm concerned about it, and of course, all of these pilots are concerned about it. If we don't address this issue, of course, there could be a concern. If the pilot himself said it, that what likely could happen is that there may be a crash, there may be some sort of terrible situation that happens, but let's not get to that point, is what he's saying. Let's move now and address it now.
What a disgrace. We have to wrap, but yet another point as to why the Green Energy Act in Ontario is an unmitigated disaster. And let's hope there is not a personal price to pay in terms of human lives because of these windmills. Thanks so much for joining us, Rebecca.
Thank you.